You are listening to the Cup of Mets podcast, your one-stop shop for all things New York Mets baseball. Remember to give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and X. We are at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And last but not least, download the SeatGeek app and use code Cup of Mets at first purchase to get $20 off. Now, your hosts, Ian Bosniak and Matthew DeSantis. What a day it has been already here in Metsland. Carlos Mendoza fired as New York Mets manager after 2.5 seasons at the helm. They fire him on the 26th of June. Matt, what were your immediate reactions amongst finding out?
Probably that he should have been fired should have been fired before today. The team has just been free falling for the last 3.5 weeks or so. So, it had to happen. Change had to happen here. I feel like it's good. I think it's kind of signaling that they're gonna start selling some pieces. So that's something that really needs to be done. I like Carlos as a person. I just don't think that he was the right man to run our franchise going forward. So.
Yeah, I think a few things can be true at the same time, right? Like, I agree with you. I think that he's a stand-up individual. He has taken, I'm not going to say a ton of accountability, even though, he says that he acknowledges that they're not playing well and this, that, and the third. But I think that there are a few things that cannot be quantified, right? And I think that that's where the front office falls short. One thing is that, yes, there are a lot of things from, let's say, our age growing up in baseball that has changed. A lot of it is quantified, it's analytics, it's this, that, the third. But 2 months ago, when the Phillies made a managerial change and the Red Sox made a managerial change, sure, the Red Sox haven't really turned it around, but the Red Sox are in a much different position than the Mets are, right? The Phillies have turned it around under Don Mattingly. That was the time to fire him. But David Stearns and Steve Cohen didn't believe in a change just to make a change, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, unfortunately, sometimes that is the case. I have said it multiple times that, and I guarantee you, when we listen to the pregame and we hear the thoughts from Lindor and Soto and all these guys, they're going to feel like shit. And that is the type of thing where the players go, wow, we did this. We did this. Mendoza was as far as we know, he was a player's manager. Like, we're accountable for this. And at that point in the season, there was still a lot of the year left. Now you're looking at, we're halfway through already. As I mentioned, it's almost July. And now you're going to go with a new manager in Andy Green, who has experience, but it's that type of ideology that I just say sometimes you have to look at old school baseball, whether it be a firing, whether it be, what did we talk about when it was 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014? I don't remember when it was, but when Terry Collins flipped in the post game, right? And said, like, if these players don't want to play, I'll find someone who will. Mendoza lacked that energy. He only got ejected once this year, and it was because of a miscommunication between the umpire ejecting somebody in the dugout, and then he came out. But it was like everything is just a little too late. And now the Mets embarrassingly got swept by the Cubs in a 4-game series. They are now 13 games under 500. It's just, they're in a position now where, yes, you said it, they should have done this a month and a half, 2 months ago.
Yeah. Yeah. No, because I think from the top down, they are very scared they're not going to sell tickets this summer. So.
And rightfully so. And rightfully so. And it's like, I see, like, for instance, the 7 line, right? They're tweeting out, whether it be Darren or the 7 line army themselves, saying, this is unacceptable, this, that. Yo, guys, how about you cancel your package? How about you cancel your package? Like, Darren, I know that this is your job, right? But bro, you're the ones that are contributing to them still filling the stadium, still selling the beer, still selling the hot dogs. Like, you guys are culprits in this, right?
Yeah.
And as you mentioned before, they're in a free fall. I just mentioned that where they are in the standings right now. I think they have the third worst record in baseball. But you know what? Accountability goes for something. And there has been zero accountability. And it's gotten so bad that, dude, trust me, I don't think, even if the Mets got swept by the Cubs, if the Mets did not lose the last two games like they lost the two games, I don't think we're sitting here today talking about Mendoza being fired
Yeah.
because I don't believe that Stearns feels like that type of change was needed. But when you go out and you commit 8 errors in 2 games, six in one game alone, you have to look at yourselves and say, even the worst of the worst of the worst teams don't do crap like that.
No, and I mean they've looked like shit from top to bottom. Pitching, hitting. These guys can't hit. It's like, uh, and I think I said it last episode. Barnes and Chavez are laughing their asses off. They really are. They're laughing their asses off. I mean, it had to happen. Um, I knew that they weren't going to pull anybody in from his current staff. I knew it was going to be Green.
Yeah, there was no way it was
And
going
the
to be
th
Kai Correa.
and what that makes me feel is that David Stearns is safe, which I think it doesn't matter how the season ends, he is safe. I don't think
Which,
he's going anywhere. And
yeah,
I'll tell you why. We were through what, five GMs in 4 years, something ridiculous.
yeah, something along those
And
lines.
we waited whatever how many years so we can get this guy. Uh, there's nobody out there that it's like, what are we gonna do? Like, I don't know. There's nobody, there's no candidates that are just jumping up and down screaming like, I'm the right guy, I'm the right guy. Who wants this dumpster fire right now? You can have, and it's proven, you can have an owner with all the fucking money in the world, but it does not matter at all unless you have somebody that can construct a farm system and a roster the right way.
But even that, right? What was Stearns so well known for, right? He couldn't spend all the money in the world in Milwaukee, but he was able to develop and nurture the farm system in Milwaukee. The system this year, you look at everybody's numbers, not named, Elian Pena or what is it, Clanier Ramirez. Everybody is having disastrous seasons. So the development is
Honestly,
obviously taking a hit
I
as
would
well.
say who I'm very happy out of this year is Luke Voigt. He has looked decently good.
I mean, Mitch
I'll,
Voigt.
Mitch Voigt, yeah. Fucking can't believe I said Luke Voigt. Mitch Voigt, yeah, no. He's looked good. I think his OPS is close to 800, so
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, there are so many things, and we'll touch upon Stearns, but I just think that again, we're talking about Carlos Mendoza being fired as manager, but it really does come back to Stearns. And I brought this up weeks ago. This reminded me of 2007, the collapse, and then going into 2008. Why didn't you just make a move after 2007? Omar Minaya learned really quickly, canned, Willie Randolph in June, and Jerry Manuel was brought on. They turned ship. They weren't in the same position they are right now. I think they were only a game under 500. But now we're 13 games under 500, nearly in July. And the Mets, since May of 2025, or since June of 2025, have been one of, if not the worst team in baseball. So
yeah.
this has been going on for a long time. But again, I will say this. Did Carlos Mendoza press all the right buttons? Absolutely not. If he's actually the one constructing the lineups, which I don't think he is, but let's say he is, lineup construction's awful. The bullpen management is awful. His ability to, again, we're not in the clubhouse, but like how many dumb challenges have we seen this year and the Mets not be able to adapt to
Yeah.
that,
That's
right?
the one that's the biggest part. He is a horrible in-game manager. He
Horrible in-game
yeah.
manager, but then also like I don't know how he communicates with them off the diamond either, because it seems like, for instance, when Mark Vientos was waved home earlier this year, or he was held up and he just ran through the stop sign, obviously Mendoza was never one in the post games to call anybody out then and there, but he says, we're going to take care of it, internally. We're going to, what has to be known is like, yes, you don't have to throw people under the bus in front of the media, but like the fans have a right to know, yo, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Because from
no, I
the
know.
outside, looking in, it's taken until today for an actual change to be made. We don't know what's happening in that locker room.
No. And honestly, the look on everybody's faces should tell it all.
Yeah.
That clip of Vientos when he made that error, and I guess they City Field started saying Pete Alonso, which I
Yep.
think is so fucking stupid. I'm sorry, Mets fans. I don't know why the hell you would do that, but just the look on that fucking and
Can I
I
tell you
feel
something?
bad.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
I was happy as anything to hear that. You want to know why? Because if anything, I don't think it's embarrassing on the Mets fans' part. I think it shows how Mets fans are feeling about the way that David Stearns went about everything.
No, I get that. Trust me, I get that.
Like
I
that was
just
icing on top of the cake after six errors.
Yeah. I just feel it was a little I think of things in many different aspects and Ronnie they have that freaking camera on poor Ronnie Mauricio and that kid just got pulled back up. It's like, dude, the morale around the team is so bad that we literally cannot expect anything out of these kid we can expect Benj, Ewing, any of Alvarez, Mauricio, Vientos, and Beatty, those four might as well not be a part of our future plans.
I mean, listen, I think that the one thing that I will say about that, and then we'll continue on, but like I like what I've seen from Francisco Alvarez recently, especially at the plate. But I think that, and we'll talk about this more maybe next week as we creep closer to the deadline, because there are a few prospect catchers that I like where the Mets could probably move some pieces, whether it be a Freddie Peralta, this, that, and maybe get a catcher. But I think Francisco Alvarez might profile better long term as like a once or twice a week catcher, but a DH
Yeah.
predominantly because he can hit and he has been showing that. Um,
Mhm.
but again, I look at it and I think that as we've seen the development of this roster continue on this year, again, this comes back to David Stearns. David Stearns took a team in 2024 that was essentially assembled and he threw some darts at the board,
Mhm.
some hit, and they were able to go on a magical run. So theoretically, going into 2025, he couldn't make any massive moves outside of Steve Cohen gifting him a Juan Soto. And he said, you know what? Yeah, Pete Alonso's willing to take a short term deal. All right, we'll bring Pete back. But what he did was he internally capitalized on the fact that the Mets blew in the second half of last year and said
Mhm.
to himself, I am blowing this up and I'm making this team in my image. And what did he do? He brought in players that are injury prone in Luis Robert Jr., in Jorge Polanco. Uh, he brought in pieces that didn't necessarily fit the bill
Of
for what
course.
this
Do you
team was
think I
trying.
wanted, did I ever want Lou Bob?
No, but I will say that given what we gave up, there are only
Yeah.
two moves that I liked
Mhm.
still, and I think it's Freddie Peralta and Luis Robert Jr. I know Freddie has not been great. He looked good last night. I know he has not been as advertised, but Jet Williams hasn't been looking great in the minors. I know Brandon Sproat put on a performance the other night, but he's been up and down. Um, But again, I think the Mets are going to at least be able to get one top 100 prospect back for Freddie Peralta. So I'm fine with that. Whatever. It was worth the risk. But
Mhm.
then you come into this season, and not only do you do that, the Lou Bobs of the world and the Jorge Polancos, but You roll with guys who you know have holes in their games, like a Brett Beatty, like a Mark Vientos. You opt to you opt to add to your pitching staff in Freddie Peralta, but you keep Kodai Senga in the rotation after he looked horrendous. You keep a David Peterson in the rotation who looked horrendous after the All-Star break last year. They did nothing to fortify the rotation outside of bringing in, Mr. Peralta. And when I look at it, it's like David Stearns blew up Carlos Mendoza's, coaching staff. He
Hmm.
blew up the roster. So it was almost an unmitigated disaster to begin with, and almost something that even probably the best managers would have had a hard time dealing with. A whole new managerial staff and a whole new roster. How does that work out for anybody?
Yeah. No, I know. I know. I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be a good year when half they let go of Hefner and like
Antoine.
yeah, all over a fucking pension, right?
Yep. Yep.
And you know what, man? Like I just find it so funny, man. Steve Cohen hasn't tweeted since April. You don't hear a peep out of this guy unless he has to throw something back into the fans' faces or something like that. It's pathetic. They have a $380 million payroll, and the only thing I'm praying for this team is that they rip the whole thing down, do it the right way. Honestly,
Yeah.
you gotta start trading these pitchers like Raley, and I would honestly trade freaking Weaver,
Yeah.
Brazabon, who's
Yep.
36 years old,
Yep. Yep. There's a lot.
get
There's a lot.
much younger, fill out that farm system, turn it
Yeah.
into a strength because it's not at this point.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, you bring up Steve Cohen, not tweeting since April. He did release a statement earlier on Mendoza's departure. I want to express my deepest gratitude to Carlos Mendoza for his leadership and unwavering commitment. He represented this organization with integrity and dedication throughout, and I wish him and his family all the best. Our commitment to bringing our fans a championship caliber team has not changed. There is no sugarcoating it. This season has been a disappointment, and our fans deserve better than what we've delivered.
We do.
But 2 months ago, Carlos Mendoza was their guy through and through. And that is what
It's all
boggles.
money, brother. It's all
It's all
money.
money, but it also reminds me of, granted, it's not a manager, but like what were we banging the horn about last year? We were banging the horn saying, we don't have starting pitching, trade for somebody. No, they made three crappy trades for bullpen arms, and they opted to call up Sproat, Tong, and Nolan McLean just only over the last 2 months, and they gave the Mets hope. They were the only reason why they were still in it and didn't completely dive out of contention. So then all of a sudden, it's like we knew after April, after the 12-game losing streak, this was going to be an issue. And they went up on the stage. David Stearns went up and said, Mendoza's my guy. Several weeks later, then he made a comment to a reporter saying, I'm not going to come up here every 2 weeks and answer these questions. So when is a reporter finally going to press David Stearns and say, can you personally take accountability for this roster and what you did and didn't do?
I mean, I'm sure behind the scenes, Steve is fucking saying that. He's probably like, now I want to see your plan to fix this. And hopefully he's saying to him, I'm not fucking spending my money on this shit anymore. Like, because all they did was just add bombs. Like Jorge fucking Polanco, man. What?
And not only that, to
You're
play,
better off going with Ryan O'Hearn for a quarter of the price. Like, what are you
yeah,
doing?
to play first base.
Yeah.
You talk about run prevention. You preach run prevention, David Stearns, and you give Mendoza this. Mendoza was a sitting duck. I don't like Mendoza. You don't like Mendoza, but he was a sitting duck.
Yeah. It's not all his fault.
It's absolutely not.
He can only do with what he's given.
Yeah. And again,
But he had a lot of chances to make in-game adjustments and
yep.
things, and he
Yeah.
never showed that he could. He was
Yep.
bad with bullpen management. You
Yep.
said it before. We were out of challenges in what, the fourth inning last week? Third?
Yeah, 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 yeah. And then David Stearns on the departure of Mendoza. Carlos has led the organization with passion and grace, blah, blah. Carlos' impact on our players, staff, and culture over the last 3 seasons has been transformative. Unfortunately, we know we are falling short in changes necessary to move forward. I can't wait to hear what this bozo has to say this afternoon when he meets the
Him,
media.
him with that fucking stupid quarter zip that he always has on.
Stupid quarter zip, stupid little smirk on his face. Bro, you know what? I understand that there may not be a ton of people out there, but like you could, it's just the way that Stearns goes about everything. It's his cockiness. It's his cockiness and his arrogance.
Hmm.
Anybody can believe, oh, I don't want a contract over 3 years, or I want to let this guy go or that guy go, or bring in this person or that person. But like, it's his arrogance, it's the way that he goes about it that makes me say to myself, if I was an owner, even if I agreed with the way that he went about his business, putting together a product on the field,
Hmm.
from a PR standpoint, I would want him gone because you can see right through him. He's a cocky, arrogant Ivy League grad who probably belongs on Wall Street or crunching data. He does not understand that there are human elements to this game. And again, though that goes into what I said in the beginning, things that cannot be quantified. And it is the relationships that are built, whether it be between players and players, players and coaches, players and fans. That stuff cannot be quantified. And David Stearns did not care. New coaching staff, new roster, wanted to see it in his own way. What did he expect was going to happen?
No, man, it really it's something. And I think the only way we're gonna see him gone, I don't really see a scenario unless it just gets 50 times worse. Unless freaking I don't know how many games are left, but we lose freaking
I'm pretty sure there's 81 games left. We're halfway through
we're
on the dot.
halfway
On
on
the
the
dot.
dot.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, dude. It's
So,
it's
well,
it
we can hop into we can talk about our new shiny toy if you want.
Yeah, yeah, no, just before we get into that, just on Andy Green, obviously he's been overseeing the minor leagues, former manager of the Padres. Listen, I agree with you. I never thought it was going to be Kai Correa. I thought it was going to be someone from the front office or like a Dick Scott coming up from AAA. I never thought it was going to be someone from the bench.
Mhm.
Um, Andy Green definitely does have more fire, and I think he is more direct. So I look forward to hearing from him in the post games and seeing how he goes about certain things because we also know that he's going to be vouching for this job postseason after the year, right? So if he wants to be in the dugout, he's going to have to perform and make it look like these players are growing and evolving. So I'm looking forward to that. I don't really think there's anything that they can salvage. I think the season is done.
It's
You
over now.
know,
Take advantage of what you can. Trade
yeah,
off as many pieces as you can, get as many assets back so you go into next year's spring training with a loaded farm system,
and
some real staples in your lineup like Carson Bench, Juan Soto, Lindor,
yeah, and
AJ Ewing.
maybe some smart moves in the off season, like nothing stupid, right? Um, but yeah, it's just, and we'll get into the.
I want them to shed payroll. That's what I want to do.
I agree, but at the same time, I also think that when you have a Juan Soto, when you have a Francisco
Yeah, you
Lindor,
have to go
when
all in.
you have to, but I think that there's a way to go all in without going all in monetarily speaking or blowing up your farm system. And I think that's something that we'll touch upon deeper on into the season. But again, they were talking earlier on SNY's breaking news segment of Mendoza being fired, the potential candidates for manager going into 2027 and beyond. They obviously brought up Andy Green. We'll see how he does as the new Mets manager. Carlos Beltran obviously has named. He has a close relationship with David Stearns. It's in the front office. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Carlos Beltran. I know I've said before that I would rather it be someone with a veteran presence that can maybe lead by example for some of these kids within the system and even some of the veterans. They think that Alex Cora will be considered, even though I don't see how Alex Cora will be able to work with someone like a David Stearns.
Hmm.
Um, but something that just popped up on my phone, and I wanted to bring this to your attention. Albert Pujols has let friends know in recent weeks that he would very much want the Mets managerial job if the team moved on from Carlos Mendoza.
Interesting.
I
I'd
know
have
that
to do
he,
more digging about him.
I know that he did interview with the Angels this past offseason, and I think that he opted to drop out of the race for manager, and obviously he managed the Dominican Republic team in the WBC. That's definitely something that we will look at. But again, you brought up the new toy before. So, again, we'll move on from Carlos Mendoza here and his firing. But this was not the only move. After the Mets got swept in the doubleheader and committed the 6 errors in game 2, the Mets pulled a midnight trade and sent David Peterson, the longest tenured Met, to the opposing dugout.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, for Cole Mathis, who's a first baseman, third baseman, also a DH. I want to say that he was at the time of the trade. I want to say that he was the Cubs' 13th overall prospect in the pipeline. He is now the Mets' 14th overall prospect in the pipeline. Just a brief synopsis of him. As I mentioned, corner infielder, DH. He's 22 years old. He was a second round pick in the 2024 draft by the Cubs. He was actually a two-way player at the College of Charleston. Had a over 1,000 OPS and also had an ERA of 3.45, but he ended up having Tommy John surgery at some point. So he's kind of dealt with some injuries since then. I don't think he's played since June 10th. Again, he is like probably a year and a half, 2 years away from making an impact on the club. His expected ETA is 2028. What do you make of this trade?
I mean, just to get a human being, not like a sack of Rawlings baseballs for David Peterson was a shock. And that should tell everybody they need to know about the pitcher market. Like we'll be able to get stuff for these guys. And after doing my reading about him, obviously he's on the older side. He looks like that he is currently on the IL, 7-day IL with high A.
Well, he's only 22.
Isn't that pretty old for high A?
It depends.
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 Um, but I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I think he has 10 home runs, 39 RBIs, and less than I think 100 at bats this year.
Yeah.
So he has the power. I woke up and I looked at that and I go, what? I was
Yeah.
like, I was expecting like a lottery ticket that somebody not even in the top 30. I go, we just landed their Cubs 13th prospect.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And the Mets didn't have to send over any money to cover the remaining portion of Peterson's salary for the rest of the year. And again, what you said before tells you everything you need to know about the pitching market. Peterson was only effective as a piggyback option in the Mets bullpen, could not start, was getting shelled, and the Mets were able to get the Cubs' 13th overall prospect um, for someone who was going to be a free agent after the year.
Yeah. And
So
that's
that
excellent news. He's 30. We were not re-signing him. So
absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's a good move for the Mets farm system. And again, that's why I said before, maybe when we thought a week ago or so after seeing Peralta get shelled that he wasn't going to be able to yearn a top 100 prospect or something like that. That's why I'm starting to think differently because especially if Scooble's not going to be available at the deadline, Peralta's probably the best arm at the deadline that's going to be had. So,
yeah,
you know, Stearns, that
send
schmuck.
his ass to the Dodgers and start fucking eating up some of their top 100 prospects.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we'll talk about that whether it be next week or the
Yeah,
week
yeah.
after. But there are a few teams I like for Peralta. I would even still talk to the Cubs. I like their first baseman outfielder prospect Josiah Hartshorn. Um, I like what the Rays have. I know that you and I have spoken about that. And then you mentioned the Dodgers, so we'll see when it comes to that. Um, One last thing that I want to talk about before we kind of look ahead. Peterson dealt, Mendoza gone. I think there is one move that we might see over the next coming days. And I don't know how you feel about this.
Hmm.
But obviously, last time we spoke, Kodai Senga was brought back to the big league club. He hadn't made a start. He got blown up in both of his starts and he officially went to the bullpen. Okay. Zach Thornton was called up. He's starting tonight. The Mets currently have four starters: Zach Thornton, Christian Scott, who will be activated tomorrow to pitch, Nolan McLean, and Freddie Peralta. Why do I have a feeling that their next accountability move and common sense move will be Kodai Senga getting DFA'd tomorrow in order to activate Christian Scott?
Let's hope that's what happens. Let's hope.
I mean, you want to talk about, you want to show that you care,
Yeah,
right? Trading
that's the
Peter,
move.
that's the move. That's the move, right? Because then you can go ahead and, like a guy like Chris, if Jonah Tong and Jack Wenninger, they're not ready, a guy like Chris Paddock just got released. The Mets could pick him up for the minimum and have him start for them and chuck a couple innings and then hand it over to the bullpen. Right?
Mhm.
Enough of this opener BS. Um, Senga is not like Peterson. He's not like Mania, where he can come in, and warm up mid game. He has all these mechanical adjustments that he has to make. Um, he's better suited as a starter, but not with the Mets, and I don't think in the major leagues right now. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping the next time that we talk, Kodai Senga will no longer be a member of the Mets.
Yeah, I agree. I hope the next time we talk, they fucking start this fire sale
I don't know. Or go on an 18
because
game winning streak.
they have to. They have to. They could bring back some significant prospect capital.
Oh, dude,
Significant.
you
There's
could
going to
trade.
be teams that are going to itch. Trade deadline day when like it's like 10 minutes left and these trades are still coming through and you're like, what the hell? People are giving up these prospects for like a guy with a 6 ERA.
Yep.
Imagine what Brazaban could get.
Dude,
Brazaban has like a 1.65.
I know. Dude, Luke Weaver hasn't allowed a run in his last 22 innings.
Imagine the
AJ,
Yankees. The Yankees are like, we want him back.
you could do it. You could do it. AJ Minter, Brooks Raley. There are so many pieces. So many
Yeah.
pieces. And who knows? Maybe someone will take a flyer on Mark Vientos, even if they want power. I
Yeah.
trade. You want to talk about Rawlings baseballs? I trade him for a fucking bag of the sack of Rawlings baseball. So we'll see. It's either they start the fire
Yeah.
sale or they go on an 18 game winning streak. There's no in
Yeah. There's
between
no in
there.
between.
There's no in between there. Just looking ahead quickly as we enter the post Carlos Mendoza era of Mets baseball. Again, Mendoza canned. Andy Green is the new interim manager. We'll hear from Andy Green, David Stearns, potentially Steve Cohen later today. I guess the jury's out on that. But looking ahead, Mets begin a 3-game series tonight against the Phillies as they look to snap their 5-game losing streak. It'll be Zach Thornton making his second major league start against Zach Wheeler
Oh.
tomorrow. Yeah, good luck.
Oh,
Tomorrow it'll be Christian Scott returning from the IL. Speaking of the IL, Marcus Simeon went on the IL, hip impingement. So that's really nice.
good.
Um,
Get him out of here too.
yeah, I
Get,
also just saw a note that Tyrone Taylor was activated, and MJ Melendez was optioned to the minors, and then additionally Francisco Lindor was brought back obviously
yep.
as well. There was a lot that we didn't talk about because this was solely about Mendoza and Stearns, but again tomorrow Christian Scott returns. He'll be opposed by Alan Rangel. I'd be lying if I said I know who that was. And
Never
then
heard of him.
on Sunday it'll be an opener taking on Jesus Luzardo. So we'll see what happens there. Then the Mets go to Canada. They see the Blue Jays. It'll be we got the first game, sick pitching matchup. It'll be Nolan McLean versus Trey Yasavage. So that'll be a good one. Mets probably get
Yeah.
no hit. Um, on Tuesday, it'll be Sean Manaea taking on Kevin Gausman. And then in the series finale, before the Mets have an off day, it'll be Freddie Peralta taking on former Mets great Max Scherzer.
That's all right. That's an interesting weekend.
Yeah, yeah. But
All right.
I will say though, tonight is the first game that I'm actually looking forward to watching because I like when the camera kind of pans over to a new face, kind of see how Andy Green goes about everything. So
Agreed, agreed. Me
we'll
too.
see. We'll see. Maddie, you got anything else for us?
No, man. I mean, we're pretty much at rock bottom right now, so
Yeah.
can't get much worse than this.
Yep.
You know what? I never I don't root for my teams to do bad. I would love to see Andy Green succeed. Um, but yeah, I mean, I want to see them freaking bring back some prospect capital because you're not coming back from an 18 game freaking however many games they're behind.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Listen, I mean, obviously the best case scenario is them going on a run and somehow being able to get back into contention. But
Yeah.
at the very least, trade the guys, get some capital back, free up some space monetarily speaking for next year, and then
Mhm.
also maybe have like a decent run in them, kind of like what we saw in the second half from the Pittsburgh Pirates last year. They fired Derek Shelton, brought in Don Kelly, and now the Pirates are playing better here the following year. So hopefully, with Mendoza out, a new voice comes in. Green's more of a veteran. Hopefully, he can connect with the players. And again, it all begins tonight, and we shall see. And with that being said, this episode's in the books. Remember to give us a follow on Instagram, YouTube, and X. We are at Cup of Mets. Subscribe to the podcast, whether it be on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And last but not least, download the SeatGeek app and use it for every game, not the Mets. Don't give them your money. Download the SeatGeek app. Use code Cup of Mets at first purchase to get $20 off. And for Matthew DeSantis, I'm Ian Bosniak. Again, as Matt said before, we're at rock bottom. So I guess we can only go up from here. Good night,
Yeah.
everybody.
Let's go Mets, baby.